In this video, I'll show you how to remove and replace front brakes on a Honda CR-V. We're going to remove the tire, 19mm socket. I recommend putting the car in neutral and turning the wheel all the way to the right so you have easy access to the back of the caliper. 10mm wrench or socket. We're going to break free that bleeder screw and then just lightly snug it. 14mm socket or wrench. We're going to break the caliper sliding pin bolts free. Now the inner side slider is spinning, so a 19mm wrench, and that way we can hold it and break it free. Let's break the top free. Set them aside. This bottom one's really giving us there we go. Now we can remove the caliper from the bracket. Just slide it, pull it out. I'm going to set it up on top here. And I'm going to get my caliper piston tool. I'm going to set that right in. And just put some tension on that piston. Now I can get that bleeder screw. And I'm going to get a little canister, get the fluid to go in as I push this piston back. That's why I broke that bleeder screw free, so now it's kind of effortless. You just open it up. Now I can catch the fluid and piston push it back while the fluid comes out. Once it bottoms out, it's pretty good. Now I'm just going to tighten that bleeder screw. My 10mm wrench, just snug it. I can take the canister off. Release my ratchet. And I'm going to get a caliper hook because I'm going to hang that right through the eyelet and hook it up on the spring. You don't want any tension on that flex hose. So the caliper bracket mounted to the knuckle. These two mounting bolts are a 19mm socket. We're going to take them right off. And remove the bracket with the pads. Now there's a mounted screw on the hub of this rotor. I use an impact screwdriver and basically twist it with a Phillips head on it. Impact. Take that right off and remove the rotor. So now you want to clean up this hub. You want to get rid of all the high-rise rust just by taking a wire brush and cleaning it off. If you put a new rotor flush on this, it could cause a pulsation and improperly wear the pads. So I like to take the new rotor and I'm going to place it right on that hub like that, and I'm just going to grab some parts cleaner, brake clean, and take the packaging oil right off the surface. Just give it a quick clean. Then I'm going to reverse it and do the same thing. While that's drying, I'm going to get my Never Sees, my copper Never Sees high temp. Remove that rotor. Take my high temp, spray that hub. Now I'm going to note where the threaded bolt hole is and make sure I use the new rotor and line it up. Now I'm going to take that mounting screw, hold the rotor flush, start it by hand. Just going to bottom it right out. Put some tension on that impact screwdriver. Just give it a whack. Now I'm going to clean the bracket, take the pads off. Just pop these right out. I like to sit them down right where I took them out, just for notification of basically where the factory puts this, like it's a sensor. It just shows the clearance of the lowest part of that pad, and that will make a squealing sound when it hits the rotor. So there's a reason why it's put in the lower part of that position or the upper. It has to do with the direction and the mounting of the caliper. So this tells me straight from the factory, that's where they wanted it. So now I will never mess up, just do it the same way. I'm gonna take the tins right off because you get new ones with the pads. Make sure you clean this surface, get rid of all the rust, brake dust, any grease. I'm gonna use that wire brush again. Then I'm probably gonna spray it with some brake clean to confirm it's all gone. Now while I'm waiting for that to dry, it's time for me to take my slider pins out. So I'm just going to pinch this boot like that, twist and pull that pin right out. And there's the old grease. We're going to clean that right off. I'm going to examine the pin, make sure there's no grooves, rust, any pitting. Looks fine, looks in good shape. Do the same to the bottom one. Pinch that boot, spin it right out. As you can see, the pins look different. That's why I like to place everything right where I took it off. The manufacturer wants this particular pin to have that boot on the end. Check for damage, swelling, torn, missing. If it is, you need to replace it. Now I'm going to take some silicone paste, caliper grease, whichever you prefer. I'm going to load that boot up right there just on the tip of it. Now I'm going to take the pin, put some new silicone grease on it. Not too much because it ends up getting like a vacuum in there. Now reason why I put it right there on the boot like that, because I want to squeeze that. I want to get it all in the grooves of that boot. And I'll just spin this as I slide it in. I'm going to bottom it out. See how that fills up with air? That's when I will pinch this and let the air out of it. Let's do the same over here. Good way to test it to see if you put not enough brake grease or caliper grease or silicone on there. So once it's down in there and you get the air out, I like to grab it and wobble it back and forth. If it's too dry, you'll feel that pin knocking around in there, and then that means take it out and apply more grease. So let's get the new tins. So in the package, it comes with a puzzle. No, it comes with all these tins. I'm going to line them up, compare them. Make sure there's no differences. Looks good to me. And all these anti-rattle pins. Those are the butterfly clips you see on the pad. So now we're going to prepare to put the tins on. They all look the same. Nice matchup. I put a little bit of silicone grease on the bottom. Make sure you get in the grooves where water likes to sit. We don't want any rust forming. That's the key to this. Push the tin down. Do the same on the other side. That's how I originally had it set up. I had the slider pins facing this way. You can take a little hammer if you want to, try to tap down on the surface, but I can visually see it's flattened, so it's ready to go. So now I'm going to grab my two pads. Make sure you grab the one that has that indicator on that side. I'm not going to put that down surface down. I don't want the pad getting any grease on it. The other one is a neutral. They all come with shims, so you're all set in that form. Now we're going to take these anti-rattle clips and you're going to slide that right in. Let's see if I can get it on this one easier. See that little lip and that little clip? Just like that. Do it on both sides. So you want that butterfly to be facing out. There you go. Let's do the same to this pad. I'm not going to install the pads yet because I don't want to fight with them trying to push out. So I'm going to go install the bracket. So now we're ready to put that bracket back on. Just slide it right down in. I've got the two mounting bolts. Always start it by hand. And that's the 19 millimeter. I'm going to snug it up with a ratchet. Now the torque spec from the factory is 80 foot-pounds. That's bracket to knuckle, 80 foot-pounds. 19 millimeter socket. Now we're ready to put the pads on. So the indicator pad with the indicator went on the inside. Now these are what they call butterfly spring clips, so they don't ride inside the channel. They ride on the outside. Just like that. So they're putting pressure on that pad. Now you see why I didn't want to carry it over like that. I'm going to do the same to the outside. There we go. Make sure that they're They're all in good places. Now I could take my caliper, and I still have to hold on to these pads because they want to just bounce right off. Perfect. There we go. Now I'm going to get my 2 mounting bolts. And now if you can see mine, one is very rusty. So I'm going to take a wire wheel to that, clean it up the threads. And you see that little, like a pink hue there? That's a light little thread locker on there. So we're going to just add a dab to both. And I put a little dab of blue, which is medium strength thread locker. So now I can line up the pin. I'm going to start it by hand. Do the top one. There you go. And that was a 14mm socket. Looks like I need that 19 to hold that inside. Just bottom it out so that you can get the torque wrench and torque it to specs. So the torque spec for this particular caliper on the slider boot pin is 37 foot-pounds. That's the 14mm socket. And I'm going to use my 19mm wrench to hold that inside, and we're going to torque it. Do the same to the top. Double check. Now I'm going to do the same to the other side of the brakes. Then I'm going to pump up the brakes. Make sure this piston seats, no leaks, all good. Put the wheels on, top off the fluid on the master cylinder, and give it a road test. Before you put the wheel back on and pump up the brakes, give it a good gravity bleed. Make sure you see no air coming out. There shouldn't be any. Then you can really snug up that bleeder screw. Give it a cleaning. And don't forget to put on that dust boot. Keeps the dirt and debris from causing that bleeder screw to becoming no good. So now we're going to put our wheel back on. Put our lug nuts on by hand, or at least start them. You can keep knocking. You can't come in. 19mm, and I'm just going to snug them up. Then I'll lower it and tighten them to factory spec. So the wheel torque spec for this Honda is 80 foot-pounds. I'm going to go in a crisscross pattern. Double check. You're ready to go. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.